in China, which was the global hub of manufacturing by far, okay? Now many companies are planning to diversify, and they're looking for different sources of components, of raw materials, as well as of manufacturing bases. So now these companies might actually end up having 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 alternate supply chains. So maybe today, not today, maybe in the next few months, it might be easier to become a part of the supply chains which would have been historically closed for many companies. The second trend is very disturbing, but it will happen, and life market, okay? Automation is going to be there in hospitality, in manufacturing. Of course, in many manufacturing setups, automation as such has taken over taken over the manufacturing landscape in the last 20 years very, very quickly. But what we are going to see would be the service industry. So automation is going to happen in the service industry. Simple things like delivering pizza will not be a human process. It will be an automated process. It could be either a drone, it could even be a self-driving car coming and delivering a pizza. You go to a restaurant, there will be perhaps a robot. There will be automation out there. And that is going to accelerate. This was going to happen, I would say, in the next 7 years. Now, according to McKinsey, it might happen in the next 2 years. IBM is being slightly more conservative and saying it might happen in 3 to 4 years. So that is one thing we have to be aware of. Then another problem where there's an opportunity is, okay, many US companies are going to decouple from China. So the global decoupling will take place. And especially with US companies, they are going to diversify away from their dependence from China. And how will that evolve? We'll perhaps look at that. So these are 3 clear opportunities that companies, doesn't matter whether it's a small company or a medium-sized company, are aware of. But I'm a marketing guy, so what's happening in the consumer landscape? Consumers, they continue to struggle with the spread of virus. I am struggling, perhaps you are struggling. There is rising unemployment. Many of my students have lost their internships. They have lost jobs. Many companies that had hired them, the offers were revoked or the joining dates were deferred to sometime in the future. Those who have jobs, earnings are going down. Furloughing is happening, okay? So many household incomes are expected to fall. There is growing anxiety. There's no surprise there. And given all of that, we are going to reevaluate our life priorities. So there are new values and new spending criteria that might emerge across the globe, not the US, I'm talking about across the globe, okay? And these behavior shifts will not just be a short term, like 1 quarter or 2 quarter shifts. The focus will shift towards family and community, towards health, and clearly the last thing is important, digital solutions, okay? This is a chart again from the Euromonitor, but also endorsed by the Gartner Group. And they were saying that if you look at the consumer verticals across the globe, luxury, of course, is going to receive a negative 18 to 19% growth, which means it's going to dip by 19%. Personal accessories, footwear, there are going to be a lot of declines out there. So with the exception of fresh food, packaged food, and home care, okay, there will be a negative impact on consumer markets across the globe. Many of these consumer markets were going to increase. By the way, the packaged food market was going to decline, but post-COVID, that is going to increase. So if you are in the packaged food business, like in Omaha, we have Conagra, Lean Cuisine, and other companies such as Tesco in the United Kingdom, there's a revival out there in packaged food. The consumer real growth per capita expenditure, is going to decline by 5 percentage points across the globe. So in other words, we are going to spend 5% less. That is not good for many of these small-sized companies, the medium-sized companies. They cannot take a 5% hit to their top-line sales. Many of them will need a lot of help then from external entities. The consumers will reevaluate their priorities, just like we all did during the global financial crisis. But after 2 years of the crisis, the consumption came back to the levels. Here, it might take, people are saying 3 years, but maybe 4 years. Some consulting companies are saying it might take up to 5 years. So there is some debate on that. So what consumer markets are we talking about that we have to pay attention to? So the health, beauty, and fashion market, that is definitely going to grow or at least sustain itself, except that the luxury, I talked about it, will be under pressure. Consumers will have a challenge, and there's a direct-to-commerce channel that will gain a lot of acceleration. And of course, in the retail environment, if you're a traditional brick and mortar store, the quicker you can go towards a frictionless retail environment, the better it is for you. So that is how we exhort all small street front stores to go to frictionless retail environment. If you are in the drinks and tobacco industry, then on-trade consumption will go down. So going to a pub, going to a bar, which is really where the margins are, that will be really bad. And there will be countertop commerce. So yeah, you will go there, but you'll buy off the counter and then you'll consume at home. That same thing will happen with restaurants. And this is, so when people want to have an experience of having food, it is going to happen through online methods. So yes, 5 people will have food together via Zoom, and they'll have cooking classes via Zoom, and it will be like they'll create a restaurant environment via Zoom from their homes. So the restaurants are going to be negatively affected for the next 3 years. That's what they are saying. Home and technology, this is where the shift is happening. There is going to be premium hygiene products that will be in demand and integrated smart technology. So a lot of technology companies will have options and opportunities here. As I said, the direct to consumer channel is going to receive a boost, and home as a health hub is going to resurface, and there will be a lot of options of bringing the gym to the home. Now, many people have that at the middle class, upper middle class, but that is going to go down to even the lower income segment. There will be opportunities in the proverbial bottom of the pyramid, as we call it. So if you are in this industry, start looking for opportunities in the bottom of the pyramid. And finally, services and payments. Yes, restaurants will start experimenting in terms of offering groceries. They will perhaps support home meal prep and delivery. They'll have to try to find value for their customers. They will tell them how to cook the same pasta dish at home through their chef from the restaurant. Of course, you'll pay a premium for that, and we'll see how that works. The physical outlets, the brick and mortar, the frictionless retail will take over. So 2 examples, and I'm going to summarize and wrap up my presentation. First is, there's a great example, this American company. Wheels is the name of the company, and they are developing this nanosaptic surface technology. So if you want to rent a bicycle, if you want to rent a scooter, today that's considered a risk, but those rental companies which adopt the nanoseptic surface technology on their bicycles and scooters and public transport systems are going to benefit. So if you have the public transport system of buses, trams, you better have this nanoseptic technology in place. At the retail environment, for those carts, shopping carts, have nanoseptic surfaces in place. So this could be an opportunity, frictionless mobility. Another example, Microsoft. Today I was reading in the Wall Street Journal. They are very good, of course, at copying others' technology, which what they did with the browser way back when. They came up with, they copied Netscape. And now they're, of course, aggressively copying Zoom. And the advantage with Microsoft is because they have the operating system and they have the browser, they can integrate a lot of stuff. So MSN Teams really is picking up. So now many of the homes are going to be multifunctional homes. So your ad hoc study room or office is now going to become like a full-fledged office. Many companies have announced that till December of this year, you'll work from home. IBM has almost made it a kind of they have given a statement that certain jobs will never come back to the workplace. You will work from home. Many companies have jumped onto that bandwagon.
Está lo que dice Ali.
So there are opportunities there. So in conclusion, this is my final slide. Companies will recalibrate their alternate supply chains. So these are opportunities for companies in Mexico and other countries to get into these alternate supply chains. Today, in the near future, it will be easier to get into those supply chains than it was merely 6 months ago. There will be heavy automation in the labor market. So for educational institutions, we have to start thinking about that. What are the business principles? What are the life principles that are we teaching to our students so that they can then coexist with automation? Don't fight automation, coexist with automation in the service environment, okay? So we have to look at that. Consumer markets, I gave you 2 examples, plus I talked about the other consumer markets that will be impacted. So look for opportunities out there. And finally, I talked about global decoupling is taking place now. This is that time, this is that moment for Mexico to really take advantage of that. India is taking advantage of it. Vietnam is taking advantage of it. These are the 4 countries that are going to benefit the maximum because the decoupling between USA and China. And given the historic trade relations between US and Mexico, I mean, I cannot even emphasize how awesome this opportunity is. So the question for you, Mexico, is, are you ready to take advantage of this? Are you ready to leverage what you have been doing over this past 50 years to now be that choice, that country of choice for American businesses? That is where I believe the future is. And I wish you all the very best. And again, I don't have all the answers, but I'll be happy to have any kind of discussions with you. So namaste to all of you. Thank you very much. Gracias. You have been very kind and patient. So I cease my presentation now and I return the microphone to our friend Abraham.
Thank you, Dr. Tej Adidam. Indeed, it was a great presentation. You gave us the whole scenario and the forecast of the industry and of business in times of COVID-19. There will be changes indeed. And as you were mentioned before about this effect of the black swan, let me tell you that I have the book right here, actually, The Black Swan, and totally agree with you, totally agree. And let me just pass the questions to the end of the presentation to make a global to sum up all the questions, but please allow me now to introduce Professor Omar Torres. And let me just say that Professor Omar Torres is most important of all, he's a friend of mine. And Professor Omar Torres, please join me here. And we are very enthusiastic about to hear your presentation, to know more about your triple front model that you and I were working, and we have in a different opportunities the chance to know more about this triple front model that you are about to talk about. And please, the floor is yours, Professor.
Thank you very much. And I really thank all my allies, friends, and partners that are today here in this webinar. And before I formally start, I would like to share with you really personal insight about this webinar. And it has to do with a lesson. And the most important lesson I've learned through all these years as Dean of International Business is the value of friendship and the support of my friends. And above all, the respect to human values. I am a valuable professional, not because of myself, or my credentials, but because of my allies. So I don't want to miss the chance to acknowledge my partners in the University of Nebraska, of course, Dr. Jane Mesa, Bruce Grogan, Luke Paul, Paul Easterbrooks, Armando de Alba, Jeffrey Couch, and of course, my dear friend Tej Adidam, and I apologize if I didn't mention and I missed somebody. I think Sarah Pirtle is around too. So my deepest respect and gratitude to you all. And also, of course, my dear friend Tej Adidam, it's an honor, my dear friend, to have you here. It's a privilege to have you this afternoon. And of course, I am very excited that this afternoon my students were able to have this high-level quality talk about international business. And of course, I wouldn't like to miss a chance to acknowledge my colleagues from the public sector. I can see that some participants are part of the COMSE, this Confederation of Enterprises of International Commerce in Veracruz, and also members of the Board of Consultants. Thank you very much. And finally, students, professors from my university, from Anáhuac, and from other higher education institutions. This is an invitation to share best practices, and this is an invitation to collaborate. As Professor Adidam mentioned, I don't have all the answers, but I am very sure that what we have here is a solid base to start building a high quality project. So let me start right now. If we go to the first slide, please. I like the reference that Tej made to black swans. As a matter of fact, my dear friends and students, I would like to recommend you that book by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. It is a book that may help us understand how unexpected events like COVID-19 pushed our societies into an abysm of immediate changes. Some of these changes in history, like the internet, had brought a boost in the development of new ways of communication, whereas COVID-19 puts in front of us a wide variety of challenges. But we have to bear in mind that these challenges may be accompanied by a great deal of opportunities in the area of international business. For example, let's take education itself. So we are quite confident right now that education needs rethinking in every aspect. Let's say teaching, research, community engagement, and my students may agree with me in this aspect. After a couple of months of moving to in-situ education to online platforms. This is an opportunity too for our students and international business young specialists to find new ways of negotiating with a unified vision in a potential, and sadly, I'm sad to say this, in a potential more divided and fragmented world. I mean, I don't want to be pessimistic, but we have to be ready. We have to optimize our networks. We have to optimize the resources we have around. And the actors of these new models must be members of the universities, policymakers, communities, and stakeholders. So this is basically the core element of what I'm presenting today, a triple front model that articulates and harmonizes different fronts to find real life considered fairly important, particularly in Latin American universities. We need to increase our international collaboration in research, considering the regional vocations, but a global perspective. Now, taking into account, for example, the new port of Veracruz, and the number of projects that we can achieve with our international partners. And if we put together international universities with private sector and public sector here in Veracruz. So when I think about my partners, my allies, my students, professors, and colleagues, and coming back to what I mentioned at the very beginning, I like a statement by Clayton Christensen. He's a professor from Harvard Business School, that after he was diagnosed with cancer, he taught his students that the conclusion he has is that the metric by which God will assess his life wasn't precisely dollars, but the individual people whose lives he has touched. And this is precisely what I have value a lot in the consolidation of projects. I am very happy we have achieved partnerships with enterprises and with the government, and now with international universities like the University of Nebraska. But above all, the most important impact is in the individual. So I strongly believe that all in all, the core of the model of collaboration that Anáhuac University Xalapa has developed is precisely that. And I will describe it in a minute. Next slide, please. Let me start with a little bit of background information. In 2016, I became the Dean of International Business at the Universidad Anáhuac Xalapa. And one of the first points in our strategic plan was to consolidate our relationship with the enterprises. We did have a memorandum of understanding with the private sector, but the idea was to take the best from international models, the German model of incorporating enterprise experience within the curriculum at different stages of our international business undergraduate program. And this precisely became the cornerstone of our international business academic board of consultants. So we realized with the members of this group that the speech of the triple front model was very popular. And everybody was speaking about the importance of industry, government, and universities working together. But what we added, the valuable ingredient that we added to this was a solid group that may facilitate the collaboration with these three fronts. So the International Business Academic Board of Consultants right now has 14 active members, all of them advisors, genuine leaders, sometimes teachers of our students, and they have made a commitment with Anáhuac University in harmonizing, as I mentioned, the academic, the private, and the public sector to develop projects oriented to the common good. So the triple front model of international cooperation is possible. I want to highlight this due to our solid board of consultants. So that is the key element of the triple front model. What is a triple front model? It's a model of management, but it's a model of management by a solid group of collaborators. Next slide, please. We developed a company program. I think this is a good translation of what I would like to say. Through the years in which the modernization of the North Bay was in process, we have taken hundreds of students, professors, and international partners to witness the development of one of the most important works of infrastructure in Mexico and Latin America. So we have become promoters of the Port of Veracruz at home, in our classroom, within our curriculum, and international forums. With the Custom Broker Association, we became trainers and trainees. We have shared best practices for almost 5 years, and we are in the process of articulating projects with our partners in Nebraska. Logistic enterprise like Chrome Logistics became a fixed laboratory for our international business students, professors, and researchers, with constant workshops, training programs, with a view to developing professional profiles able to find solutions, innovate, and develop new businesses. I cannot deny the importance of working. We added the most important chamber of commerces in our group, and with this chamber of commerce, we have organized really successful academic enterprise missions to iconic places like Silicon Valley to get best practices for our students, small, medium-sized enterprises, and public sector representatives. And after a while working with the private sector, we successfully managed to incorporate the federal government. And with the federal delegation of the Ministry of Economy in this group, we consolidated one of the 49 high-impact business incubator recognized by the federal government. And from that, we have given support to small, medium-sized enterprises in the region in the area of international business. With the Secretaryship of Economic and Port Development, SEDECOP, I can see that Justo Fernández is online. Thank you, Justo, and also our member of the Board of Consultants, Ingeniero Luis Cuevas. We have formed an army of students, negotiators with representatives of international enterprises willing to do business in the region. Finally, port terminals like Ikabe Hutchison and CICE are currently working with us in developing training programs in a harmonized project of cybersecurity with the collaboration of all the port community and, of course, our allies in the College of Informatics, Science, Technology in the University of Nebraska in Omaha. Next slide, please. So the next step after 4 years of consolidating this group of collaboration, the ingredient that we added was our international partners. So we realized we had a solid base of collaboration in the region, and now we needed to add a global vision. So our international partner, the University of Nebraska, I'm very proud of wearing your colors today. This is how we incorporated the College of Business Administration, the College of Informatics, Science and Technology, and the Medical Center of the University of Nebraska. Although I am Anáhuac, this N is an N of Nebraska, my dear friends, my dear partners. Ilora started with a successful blended learning program on public health for our med school with the assistance of our paisano Armando de Alba. Thank you very much. A successful annual activity and the consolidation of a memorandum of understanding with the College of Business Administration at the University of Nebraska at Omaha. It was precisely this, with this signature that Professor Adidam, a delegation of this university, came to Mexico. They came to Veracruz. They visited strategic key partners. And in the end, we developed a solid base to start integrating our regional partners with our global ones to develop win-win projects. So next slide, please. These are some of the remarkable examples of the current projects we're building together among others. I apologize if I don't include some of them. With the College of Business Administration, well, we developed a training program in situ. 18 students were coming to Mexico this May. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we have to postpone it. But we are considering and looking alternate ways to make this project happen. With the College of Informatics, Science and Technology, are developing, they are in the process of discussing and analyzing the best niches of opportunities to develop cybersecurity projects in the port of Veracruz. Let me tell you that during our last ordinary session of the Board of Consultants last Friday, one of the members of our Board of Consultants, the former president of the Custom Broker Association, he made a commitment of make this project happen. University of Nebraska Medical Center, well, I am very glad to share that it all started with this collaboration. And I am very happy to share with you all that right now we are developing community engagement programs with our Mexican connationals in Omaha by means of the University of Nebraska Medical Center and our Mexican consulate. And of course, I wouldn't like to miss this important program that we are developing with UNO that will start in July, which is a leadership program with assistance and professionalism of Jeffrey Coach, that is also in this webinar participating. And so we can emulate a project that we have in Mexico. We have something called the International Port Week, where we take our students to the Port of Veracruz, and they have this interaction with national and international partners. So we are bringing now our students with corporate delegations in Omaha, so they can develop these abilities and knowledge that from too. Next slide, please. So with the COVID-19 outbreak and the massive acceleration of technology take-up, our international triple front model is growing and consolidating facing the challenges of a potential more divided world with a more conflictual nationalistic reality, the financial crisis that in Mexico is affecting small, medium-sized enterprises, that this represents 72% of the national economy. And I would like to highlight not what we have been doing with our project, with our board of consultants, but the opportunity that we, partners, students, professors, allies, that we have with this solid base. This should be a model of hope, a model that must encourage us to promote a more dynamic cooperation, to find solutions by means of research, training, and community engagement. So Tej was asking at the end of his presentation, are we ready to face the challenge? I mean, being ready, in my opinion, is not only about having the resources, but the allies. So facing the post-COVID-19 era, I would like to share this methodology with our partners and best practices and get more allies in the region. And in this way, integrate professors, students, and researchers, again, more private sector members and the government, of course, to work together to solve regional problems with a global vision. This is an urgent vision in this time of changes. Thank you very much, and I will be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you very much, Professor Omar Torres. Actually, a great presentation that you made. And let me just highlight some points about your presentation that I think it will be important. And first of all, as Dr. Tej Adidam was mentioned, we have a huge opportunity here in Mexico, and it's in our court to make it happen. And there are some specific and technical issues that we have in front of us. For example, we are about to enter into a new framework in business, and I'm talking about a new trade agreement between the United States, Mexico, and Canada. This is a very important topic, and here we have in Mexico a huge opportunity, and of course between Veracruz and Omaha. Also, I would like to highlight, you mentioned, Professor Omar Torres, the importance of the SMEs, of the small and medium enterprises. And we have to figure out how to include these small and medium enterprises into the global supply chain in order to make more benefits for everybody. I think this is a must, and we have to do this in order also to make global trade more even. And last, I would like to highlight what you mentioned about the triple front model, this model that take into consideration three main elements: the public sector, the private sector, and the academic sector. We have to look for make better bounds and better links between these three dimensions in order to solve problems and to create new solutions and improve not only international trade, but I'm talking about improving the whole business system. So great to hear from you, Professor Omar Torres. And now, friends, let me tell you that I'm gonna ask our assistant, Deyanira, to read out loud some of your questions so you can have the answers. And please, Deyanira, if you like to read it out loud.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Professor Weller. The first question I think is for Tej, and it says, how long you think it will take the world to get back to normal? Or do you think we will make this new electronic life our daily routine? How are you managing the pandemic in Nebraska? That question is from Cristal Escalante.
Okay, thank you, Cristal, for the question. I do not know how long this will take. I wish I had the crystal ball because nobody knows. Having said that, companies are preparing for this new normal, and There is a speculation by at least two very well-known consulting companies. I've mentioned already one of them was IBM. The second is the Gartner Group, which are expecting that in terms of the consumer expenditure coming back to the 2019 levels, it might be between 3 to 4 years. But even when it comes back in 3 to 4 years, the consumer expenditure, the landscape will be different. The retail environment will be different. The shopping malls will be different. It is not possible for the brick and mortar stores to continue to operate in the same way. And as I mentioned, the new normal is going to include a lot of automation. So going back to what was there in December of 2019, that is not going to happen in the economy, in the area of commerce. So that is changing, and that will remain, and that change will continue to happen. How it is going to emerge on the other side? Two things. First, we don't know what the other side is in terms of how much time. The speculation is, again, as I said, 3 to 4 years. But how it is going to evolve, in what shape, that again, we can only speculate right now. But if you focus on the things that I have mentioned, those 5 consumer markets, that will give you a good idea as to what you can be seeing in the year 2023, 2024. So opportunities are there. Take advantage of those opportunities and try to visualize life with very less human contact in the way that we are used to. It'll be a different kind of human contact. And as I said, it'll be friends getting together, having dinner together, except I'll be having dinner at my home, you'll be having dinner at your home, but we'll still be connected and exchange our comments to each other and those kind of things. And that's the new normal. How are we dealing with it in Nebraska? Just like any other state, our state has been impacted by the pandemic. As I mentioned, many of my students have lost their internships. Many of them have their offers have been rescinded from companies. They are unable to travel due to restrictions. So they are hoping that things will rebound. I have promised to write recommendation letters, to make connections with companies. Whatever I can do for them, I promised that to them. And I'll just keep trying from my side. But at a very personal level, it has not been easy for me. But that's it. You have to be optimistic and you have to play the cards that have been dealt. So that is, I guess, my long answer. Yes, Abraham.
Thank you, Dr. Adidam. Deyanira?
Yeah, we have 5 more minutes, so I think we can answer another question. And this question is from Rodrigo Casillas. And the question, I think, is once again for Tej. And it says, as for evaluating priorities and engaging in a new values for the economy, it is possible for a market, product, or service to become obsolete?
Oh, so the question is it possible for a product or service to become obsolete?
Yeah.
Well, the answer is absolutely. We are seeing that right now. I mean, how many restaurants are running? In Nebraska, we just opened the restaurants and the restrictions are in place. You can have only 25% of the capacity. Okay. How do you run a business with that kind of a consumer target market? See the hospitality industry, see the airline industry. United Airlines, which used to be the largest airline, they have shut down 90% of their network. Okay, so it's going to be, there will be a lot of products that are going to be obsolete. But having said that, rather than focus on that, my humble thing that I've told my students and my friends is focus on where the opportunities are and move in that direction. You are in a very lucky place, Mexico, right now. I'll say that. Why? Because of two things, your geographical proximity to the US and a strong platform in which US and Mexico are tremendous trade partners. Now Mexico is the #1 trading partner for USA. So you have those two assets to bank on. This is the time to really take off, look at those opportunities and get into those supply chains of American companies and eventually then expand your presence in the American market. And at the same time, make your products more and more attractive by looking at automation, by looking at technology, and also keeping in mind the fact that the traditional retail model is no longer going to be the same. So keep all of those things in mind. I think Mexico, India, Indonesia, Vietnam, those 4 countries have a tremendous future if they play their cards correctly.
Totally agree with you, Dr. Adidam. Actually, we have a great platform in order to foster our export sector. Oh, all right. I don't know if we have time for another question. Deyanira?
Yeah, we still have 2 minutes, so I think we can go for another question if you don't mind.
Okay, please.
Okay, this question says, this question is also for Dr. Tech, and it's from Justo Fernández. It says, do you think this will have an inflation effect? Restaurants, for instance, because of the rules of social distancing, have less space for consumers, so they have to ask higher prices to break even or make a profit. If we find a vaccine cure, will we go back to the way of life as we used to?
That's a great question, but the inflationary tendencies will happen not because of what you mentioned. That might contribute marginally to inflation, but the inflation will happen because of the fiscal policies and monetary policies of the governments across the globe. The quantitative easing, for example, that's a big policy where a lot of extra supply of money is being given out. Then the fiscal policies of like a $3 trillion stimulus right now in the US, where money is being given easily to all these companies to sustain themselves. So with all of the easy flow of money, the supply of money, that is what is going to drive inflation more than the demand side of the equation that you are talking about. So now what you're talking about will play a role, yes, because restaurants, if they have to operate at 25% capacity, but that is only in the restaurant. They still have options of keeping their shop running by getting into alternate modes of operation. I mentioned using deliveries, using the chef to interact with customers. There'll be new modes of interaction. New products are going to come up. So it's not that those restaurants are going to go out of business. They just have to recalibrate themselves. Once they recalibrate themselves and dream about new ways of operating, then they will be okay. So I'm not too concerned about the demand side of the inflation impact, but yes, from the supply side, definitely there will be some inflation, but that is necessary right now. I do not begrudge the governments doing that. I think they should do that. I'm a supporter of that $3 trillion stimulus, especially if it helps the small businesses and the, let us say, the education sector. So that is, of course, I have to say that. So I'm saying that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you again, Dr. Adidam. Professor Omar Torres, you have any comments?
Yes, I would like to add to this conclusion that while I've been reading all the comments, I would like to acknowledge also the participation of a university of, I see a comment from the University of Monterrey. No, I am very interested, of course, in getting to know more about this valuable project. And just underlining the main idea of my presentation, that this is an open door for collaboration. I think we are giving solid examples of how we have been working, and more people, more students, more researchers are invited. Thank you very much, and again, my respect to all the participants, and well, we look forward to having more exercises like this one. Thank you very much.
Well, and just to finalize our forum, let me thank Dr. Tesh Adidam and Professor Omar Torres for gave us such a great webinar today. And also to thank you all for participating in this webinar. And we are looking forward to make more contributions between these two great institutions. See you soon and regards. Namaste. Hasta luego. Saludos.
Thank you very much.